Welcome to Channel Security Secrets. I'm Lou Rabon. On this show, we expose the untold secrets and critical insights from the people shaping the future of cybersecurity sales in the Trusted Advisor channel. If you're looking to up your game around selling security, stick around. Channel Security Secrets is brought to you by Cyber Defense Group, on a mission to shift cybersecurity from reactive to resilient. I'm stoked to chat with our guest today. He's a cybersecurity executive advisor and ethical hacker with over 16 years of experience in security leadership. His background spans security engineering, risk assessment, AI security, and leading high-performing security teams. At NIDIG, he pioneered the company's threat intelligence detection engineering and incident response program. Today, he directs global cybersecurity, ensuring the protection of data, assets, and brand trust worldwide. Co-author of the cybersecurity book, 97 Things Every Application Security Professional Should Know. He's the global director of cybersecurity at Monks. Alexander Wold, welcome to the show.
Oh yeah, definitely. I really appreciate being here. It's I think a fascinating time in our history as an industry. So I think there's a lot of opportunities and also a lot of challenges. So I really appreciate being on the show today.
Yeah, we're stoked to have you because you're a practitioner. You're not a salesperson, so we're going to talk about what it looks like when you're the receiver of some of these sales pitches that you're getting. But let's get into our first question, which is, what is the biggest secret to your success in security?
I would say probably my biggest secret is just general tenacity and then follow through. So in security, there's a lot of rocks to overturn. And the only way you can discover vulnerabilities or issues is by looking and then by trying to see things from a new perspective. So being tenacious and just continuing to dig for more answers to questions is what I think has really made positive outcomes in my career.
Yeah, it's interesting because we see this actually with non-practitioners too. Anyone that we've spoken to, curiosity, right? That's what it boils down to, is don't just accept the first answer, don't accept things at face value, but dig and question everything.
Oh, definitely. Questioning everything is a core part of my philosophy because whether it's your priors from your family, your community, your industry, there's going to be ways of working that people will just assume is the proper way. But then hackers don't think that way. They think of, how do I get around what's standard, and how do I understand the system the way that other people don't understand or don't expect. So questioning everything is definitely rings true with me.
Yeah, that's great. So, our audience typically is made up of people that are buying and selling within this trusted advisor channel. I know Jacob. That's how we met from 3Tree. So you understand the model. One of the things I think people would want to know is since you're one of the buyers, you're getting approached by these trusted advisors. What do you consider to be like, what are the effective ways to reach you? I know that cold calling is dead, right? Like, especially with, I don't know if you've used the recent iOS, but it's got some really good anti-spam features now where, if you're an unknown caller, you're immediately put to another queue. Sometimes you can be blocked. There's also apps, obviously, that block that stuff. So cold calling doesn't work. And then cold emailing, I think, is pretty dead these days too, with spam filters, and especially if you're using, any of the major mail carriers, plus having corporate email security. There's ways to really tone that down. So, essentially, how are people reaching you, and what do you respond to?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a great question because whether it's a spam filter or even just fatigue through messaging systems, it's you're trying to get the attention of the person. To get my attention, it takes a lot of effort actually. So that creativity is usually what works best with me and also with other individuals I work with. So with a trusted partner, for example, the hardest thing to do is to build trust. So with that trust building, you have to really go where the practitioners are going. So whether that's events, whether that's conference, whether that's webinar, actually being where the people are is a critical first step in order to get the initial foot in the door approach. Cold calling, cold emails, they might have worked in the past. People today might actually see it as annoying, or they might not even go with a solution because it's not providing any initial value. There might be a lot of like prior assumptions or prior understandings from like past interactions with a company, or it might be totally untrue today. A lot of times, companies will also assign, for example, regional staff. So if your company's headquartered in one country, then you'll usually get calls from people in that country where they're originating from. Well, if you're a global company, I might be getting calls at 3 a.m. It's not very likely I'm going to answer your call if it's at 3 a.m. So it's some very human level understanding of how to get attention. At the same time, you have to show up. True leadership and partnership requires actually being there.
Yeah. Great points, and like gold for anyone out there that's trying to get your attention. So, understanding who you're speaking to, not relying on some kind of automated script or AI outreach. I mean, the AI outreach is just like is so obvious these days. Like, oh, Alexander, I love how your company it does XYZ, is the leading retail or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's so immediately those are the ones that you get through. If it's got a personal message, but what I also heard is like going to events, getting involved in if they want to sell security, these trusted advisors should probably look at what are the local security events like ISSA or OWASP or any of the organizations that are having security meetups and things like that.
Oh, definitely. And, it's critical because that's where the people are. And then it's at all levels too of the industry. So you might talk to, for example, at a security conference, an analyst. The analyst might one day be a manager, director, a CISO. So it's building that human supply chain with your sales to understand that this is a long game. It's not about short-term returns. It's about the overall picture is you're building a community with yourself, your own brand. There's tons of people that can do the same kind of selling, even the same technologies in a lot of cases. So in order to differentiate yourself, you have to really put yourself in that place of I'm the expert. I'm how you get the best value out of your business, and at the same time, you can trust me. So uh, it's definitely a journey, a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, great advice because I think another recurring theme on this podcast is the transactional seller versus the solution seller. And we had one person on here who has a great business, and they mentioned that sometimes they're spending time with people that they don't have an immediate deal with. They're not trying to close something. They're just, to your point, establishing those relationships, establishing trust, and that's really important. I think we see that ourselves as one of the vendors in this channel. That there are the trusted advisors that are very much like, "Hey, give us a quote. We just want to get a quote." And it's like, no, that's not the way we do business. We want to understand what are the problems. And often, what we see are companies, especially lower in the maturity scale, they're coming. They're like, "Hey, we want a pen test," and we're often saying, "Well, why?" Yeah, pen tests are great, and they're part of an overall security program, right? But it's just one piece. And if you haven't had an assessment of your entire environment for 2 years or more, or you haven't, if you want to pick a project, like, have you done a tabletop? Like, yeah, it's true. A pen test will show you what really obvious external ways of getting in are going to be out there, but that's not really necessarily the best project for them to lead with. So that's why we want to have those conversations.
Oh, definitely, and it's a time saver at the end of the day because you can try to sell something to someone that doesn't need it, and you're just wasting your time. If you just understand what their problems are and then their challenges, not only will you optimize your time, but you'll provide better outcomes for the customer.
Yeah, 100%. So, what resonates with you? Let's say they've gotten your attention. What resonates? What I heard partially is obviously be relevant to your needs. So, if they're reaching out, definitely not at 3 in the morning. But they've gotten you on the phone, or they've gotten you to return a call or return an email. What is it that makes you want to take the next step with them?
The big thing is highlighting value and then also minimizing my effort. Nothing bothers me more than 18 questions in an initial email. Um, Very unlikely I'm going to ever answer those kind of emails because I have very limited time to even read the email, let alone action anything within it. So, getting straight to the point, showing the value proposition, that can be a report, a highlighted link of a case study. Um, there really needs to at least be that initial hook of value in the email itself too. So, um, also other communication channels. You need to pull me in immediately. So if you're in like my Slack, for example, you know, definitely needs to be in a very thoughtful message. At the same time, doesn't ask me 1,000 questions because at the end of the day, I'm the customer and the vendor should be doing the work for me to understand how to solve my challenge. It's enough for me to at least highlight what my challenges are. So I would usually recommend in those situations, ask, do you see the solution fitting with your current needs? If the answer is no, that's okay. Because the thing is when the need does come up, the first person they're going to remember is you for at least mentioning the solution. At the same time, follow-ups, this is a critical thing. Vendors do not do enough follow-ups when it comes to understanding if problems might have just appeared. Businesses don't operate linearly. Sometimes it's like a zigzag. So you might have moments and quarters and even days where spend can occur, and then there's procedure and process the rest of the year. So um, definitely hit while the iron's hot, but then at the same time, you need to be okay with rejection.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, any person that is salesperson that's out there that's not okay with rejection is definitely in the wrong field. But I think what you're also saying, what I'm hearing is, be prepared, understand your business, be very tight with the message. Don't expect you to start feeding, as the customer, a ton of information to the salesperson or trusted advisor. Really understand. Okay, hey, here's what I'd like to speak to you about. Here's why it's going to help alleviate some pain. Here's some information on other customers like you that we've helped, et cetera. Here, let's set up a time to chat.
Exactly, and and that opens the door, and then, once you get that initial trust, then, sky's the limit where, you can start talking about other challenges. So, like, if you're a partner that's specializing in IT or security, for example, that might just be one aspect of what the business needs. You might be able to bring in other partners, other relationships that will enhance the overall, system that you're building with this client.
It's a 100%, and that's the long term. That's the solution sell. It's not like, "Oh, okay, you need, some widgets. Here's a quote for some widgets, and then a year later, I'll come back and ask you to renew the widgets." It's like, "Wait, why do you need them? What are your, pain points? Okay, well, maybe we can't help you here, but we'll help you over here. We know someone that can help." So, that's one thing that's nice about the trusted advisor, network, is that you can go to them and say, "Listen, I know I need this. These are my requirements. Can you come back to me with 2 or 3 vendors that do this?" I think that's the value prop. So, what's your experience been in working with, the Trusted Advisor Network?
Oh yeah, it's been a game changer because I only have so many hours in my week, and a trusted advisor, they have teams of people where um, I can ask them to do research. I can ask for what's the market look like for this solution, or what are you seeing in other customers that is not working. Um, if I do all the research myself, I'm going to be limited by what the marketing people tell me I can see. But then having on the ground experience with other actual customers, it provides invaluable insights to me where I can understand, oh, this worked for this company, but not this company. We have these strategies to get the best price depending on certain tiers or product offerings. Those are the things that I just don't have the time to develop and build that a partner does. So I see partners as an extension of my team rather than a client partnership in that way. Um, they are on my team. It's just, they use a different email.
Right, yeah. That's brilliant. And what about your peers? Because I feel like this is still really new, for especially in cyber. I think you're probably on the Slack channels, CISO Slack channels, and all that stuff. For hey, do you guys know a good vendor that does this? So coming over to this trusted advisor, like reaching out to a partner and saying, hey, can you help me, and maybe even run the RFP for you? Are you seeing your peers starting to adopt this too, or are they still kind of resistant?
They're starting to adopt it rapidly, actually. So I would say the newer generation too, especially, is very open to this model of delegation because essentially that's what we're doing is we're delegating work that we would have to do, and at the same time, once we have that trusted partnership, we're making some very critical decisions for the business based on that decisioning. So I would say it's increasing in trend. All of my peers are slowly getting onto this model. 10 years ago, I didn't know anybody on this kind of structure. So it's definitely newer in the space, more efficient, and then more beneficial to both sides. It's not just like you mentioned, not a transactional relationship. Now it's a journey, and then there's additional benefits too, where I can get networking access. I can get insights from some of the best people in the industry because they're also using partners as well. Before, if we're just sharing the same vendor, like, oh yeah, we'll go to the same conference together, we'll grab the same swag, you'll have a beer maybe. But now I can go to a networking event with other partner members, and I can get direct insights from some companies that I would only wish I could get CISO time with. So it's been invaluable for me. But then I think it's going to be a model that any security leader or IT leader is going to really want to focus on is you're limited by how much time you have. So delegate what you can to the best people you know. And if you don't know, I'm sure there's someone in your network. I know a few myself that would be excellent for any company.
That's great. Yes, please spread the word because we want more and more people to do this, and that's why we've decided as a company to go as a supplier to this trusted advisor network because the budget required to become a brand name is requires a huge investment, and so in trying to do this in a way that we don't have to go give away the company, to get the sales and marketing capability, the trusted advisor network for suppliers too is just a really great because then we concentrate on a smaller subset of sellers that get it, they understand, and we've got a different model at Cyber Defense Group. We do flat rate pricing and stuff, which is still pretty new, and people don't can't wrap their heads around it. But to have a trusted advisor be able to explain that to someone like you, a buyer, is easier than you saying, "Oh yeah, let me take a shot on this weird model that we've never done before." It's kind of like you'd have to be in some serious pain, like maybe hired two or three, security companies and had a horrible experience. You're like, okay, I know exactly what I need, and so we that's a narrow subset. The trusted advisor network is really a good thing for. I think you're right. All parties involved.
Oh, definitely. You're lining incentives together, and a flat fee structure like you mentioned. That's perfect because it doesn't matter how cheap you get it. You're still getting what you need as a company, and then I can trust that. Oh, our incentives are aligned.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go too far into what we do, but that's why I did it is because the time and materials model. Who does that benefit? It benefits the company charging time and materials and retainers and stuff, which is great. But it's a great short term way to make money. But in a long term relationship, the worst thing that you want is someone saying, "Oh, let's not use the security team too much because they're too expensive." Like, we want, everyone to use this as much as possible so we can do our job and protect the environment. So, as you know, so, um, what one thing a question I had for you. I know that I've got buddies that work at, the security teams of, like yourself. They're getting gifts at, especially the larger organizations. What's the craziest gift you gotten to ask for a meeting?
Oh, for sure. And I have to reject these gifts because you know,
Corporate policy.
corporate policy, ethics. It's one thing to buy me a dinner after we've done the deal. A lot of customers are going to be similar in that way. But then for the customers that do accept gifts. It's I've seen vendors try everything under the sun. Popcorn towers, pickle parades. They have they're as creative as you can imagine. They'll show up at my doors a few times. So it's um, it can get intrusive even. And if it becomes too intrusive, it becomes very off-putting, and also expensive to do those kind of marketing tactics.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is if a company doesn't accept gifts, then it's seen as hostile. It's like, oh, you're trying to bribe us essentially. But then uh, the thing is, you as the vendor and the seller, you don't want to be seen as just trying to bribe off your customers. It's you want to see as providing true value and insight. And there's other ways. So sending gifts, I don't advise it actually because it's going to be expensive and the results are going to be minimal. And then also, if the customer is going to be accepting a gift from you, they'll accept a gift from your competitor too. So
Oh yeah.
it's a losing game. And at the end of the day, your solution and your network should speak for itself. So, uh, just my own opinion, but if you're going to focus on gifting, do it in a way that's networking related. So,
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
want to come to this event with me? Do you want to meet other like-minded peers in your industry? Because that provides immediate value, low pressure sales, and then it gets you the building that trust with the client.
Yeah, that's great feedback, and anyone that's doing these gifts, I mean, even I recently got like a $2 bill from I forgot what kind of I don't even remember the company, but I was like, obviously I'm not going to throw this out. I think I gave it to one of my kids, like, oh look, $2 bill, cool. But it's like if they're sending this out to 10,000, 100,000 people, it's just like, what's the utility of that? I know it didn't make me want to buy their product anymore.
Oh yeah, like if you stop sending me $2, will you make it cheaper?
Yeah, so right, or is this yeah, it's so strange. So yeah, I know well, one of my buddies got like an Apple Watch they sent to him, and I think he might have had I don't know if he sent it back or not, but it was just shocking when you think what is the cost of an Apple Watch? And this was like 5 years ago or something. So it wasn't like now where they've got different models, high, low, medium. Whatever it was, it would have been a couple $100 at least.
Oh, for sure. And then also after the fact, where even if you don't go with a vendor, they'll send you an after survey and a reward where it's, oh, we'll give you $100 to tell us why you said no. And it's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
if you just read the email of why we ended the conversation, you wouldn't have to spend $100.
Yeah, it's such a waste of money and time. I agree, but what I think for the audience, what's really important to know is that industry events or putting you together, like, hey, we're gonna have a round table. We're gonna do a dinner at a nice restaurant. We're gonna have a round table, or maybe sometimes even a dinner is a bit of a commitment because you're like, oh gosh, depending on how free your evenings are, if people have families or obviously other things they want to do, maybe a lunch or something. Even if it's a Zoom, maybe like, hey, well, I'll send you. One time we did a wine event, but less people are drinking, and also we learned that a lot of people just wanted the wine. They didn't respond after. But long story short, I think those events that are adding value where you're with your peers, something that gets you together with your peers, where you can share ideas, you're getting value because you're to your point, sometimes you get a little bit myopic in your own environment. You want to have the feedback from someone else. Yeah, I think that's a really good takeaway. One other question I have, Alexander, since it's like really important for people that are getting into this channel, it's new. Like your peers are not using it as much. They're starting to though. That's encouraging. But also for the sellers that haven't sold security before, there's a lot of them, and they want to because they know it's lucrative. Maybe they've got a curiosity and interest in it, but they haven't sold a lot. What would you say to them? Like if you got a call from someone, they're like, "Hey, I understand some of your pain points. Are these relevant?" Someone like you, you're gonna be able to dive as deep as, like super deep technically. They're gonna get scared. So what advice would you have for them if you start to be like, get into like, all right, well, is that on the OWASP top 10 or, what kind of does it have a fuzzing capability or something, where it's gonna go over their head?
Oh yeah, and that's the challenge you face as a seller is you don't want to approach a situation where you don't understand what's being said in the room. So, in order to get around that, setting those expectations from the start, I think is really healthy because in our personal lives, we have all range of people, intelligence, interests, hobbies. Just because you just started in security selling doesn't mean you have to be an expert, but there's some at least core foundational principles that you should follow. The biggest, in my view, is understanding the person. So first, make sure they know who you are. If, for example, you see someone at an event, shake their hand. Ask them, where you live. What's your interests. Really start off as that foundation. But then, if you have more limited access to people, let's say over email, typically the easiest way will be to provide immediate value. So, if you're selling PAM solutions, tell me why your solution is best value wise. So I want to emphasize value. So you can have the best solution, but if it's $10 million, there's very little chance you'll ever sell it, even if it's a perfect solution. So leading with value is typically one of the best ways to get your foot in the door. You can always upsell, add on, and upgrade, but the idea is to get a sale. So if you want to get that sale, show why your solution can, one, meet the needs, but at the best price. And that's going to be very hard for a lot of salespeople because the solution you're selling might not be the cheapest. So there's additional things you have to add on to it then. For example, what's the additional value or savings that your solution will provide? Is there FTE that you don't have to hire now because of your solution? These are things that you want to highlight in the value proposition because if you are the cheapest, your job's already going to be easier because all you have to do is get volume. But then if you're on the more higher end and you still need to really get your foot in the door, explain why that value exists and how your solution will provide initial benefits at medium and long term. Uh, Most customers, they get a budget and they're okay, I can spend $500,000 on the solution, not a penny more. And a lot of vendors struggle with that. They'll create these artificial barriers in their sales strategies, like, oh, I can only sell 1,000 minimum units or 2,000 minimum units, or the minimum package we can have is XYZ. And the thing is that's not useful for the customer. And also, it puts in the customer's mind that they're too expensive to ever work with. You might permanently lose a customer over the lifetime of that individual because they'll see you as too expensive. I won't name names in our industry, but there's a lot of those where once you're known as the price use solution, people aren't looking at you immediately. They only look at you as a last case scenario.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm thinking of you might be referring to endpoint, because it's that's one area where we've struggled, especially if it's like, well, yeah, this is the minimum size, but hold on a second, you've got some customers that are just under that that might, be growing and expand beyond that. But yeah, the minute and then that opens a door to a competitor. And then if that competitor is just as good, if not better in many ways, plus they're more flexible with their pricing, yeah, for the lifetime contract value of that, yeah, great point.
And as a partner, it's your job to make those magic deals happen where maybe the vendor won't normally sell it if you're just going to them yourself, but having the security vendor and the partner work together to make a custom deal that meets the customer's needs, well, one, it will show the value of the partnership, but then it also gets a sale. So it helps every single party and then removes these artificial barriers to sales that a lot of salespeople don't even know they're doing.
Yeah, it's a great point, and that's what's really the long term, right? If we can get the salespeople to think long term, short term, yeah, in your wallet, in their wallet, they may not get the biggest commission for a smaller sale, especially if they introduce other solutions and things like that. But to your point, they're establishing trust, and therefore, over the lifetime of that relationship, and yeah, you've moved around, especially security. I mean, it's getting longer, thankfully, the tenure. I remember a couple years ago, it was like every year people were jumping. What that means is you're jumping to a new budget, maybe a bigger company, and maybe, that trust that they've established with you, people buy from people. They don't buy from companies, right? So you're going to go back to that person and say, "Oh, I'm at, new company X and you did such a good job. I know it wasn't a big deal, but guess what? now I'm working at company Y, and company Y has a lot bigger budget. Let's talk, you know?
Exactly. So,
Yeah,
you know, it's beneficial to everyone to establish those long-term strategies, and short-term thinking is gonna only provide you short-term gain, and the thing is if you lose your customers over a 2, 3-year period, it's gonna hurt a lot more to not make money than it is to have a lifelong business,
big time.
and it's just a as a from the customer's perspective, I see people fail all the time in this space. It's, you know, it simple steps can have amazing impacts. So that's why I at least mentioned in the beginning, question everything too, because just because your sales team told you this is the way that you need to do something, there might be more effective strategies for the individual. Every person's different, and your strategy should be tailored to the individual, not a generic population group.
Yeah, that's such great advice. I mean, this is gold. I hope this is really a lot of the listeners are taking notes here because you're giving them the script and the basically the instructions on how to do this. We spoke to a trusted advisor who said, yeah, they had started in sales they went from IT to like Cisco, and this is maybe 10 plus years ago. It was Cisco ASAs or something, and they started to understand a bit more about security, and that's when they got curious. So ask questions, right? And question everything. So they were like, wait a second, what how does this protect and blah blah blah. So all of a sudden now that's all they do is security sales, 10 years later, and they're very successful at it. It's because of exactly what you're talking about, to ask the questions, question everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is like a challenge that you're dealing with, at a high level, obviously, like that and I'm not saying I don't want to do anything that's going to get you like a million inbound calls. But it's like we need endpoint, and then yeah. But I mean, like a big challenge maybe that you've solved recently, with an external provider that's helped you get through it.
Oh yeah, definitely. This was through the partnership actually I had, but then we're able to at least get a cloud security posture management suite. I won't name names out of respect, but then um, this challenges we were facing where we had disparate environments, various ownership, every cloud you can imagine from AWS, GCP, Azure, even some smaller players that you might not even know of. We were using being able to find a solution to actually get end-to-end coverage, visibility, and then most importantly from a CNAT perspective. So just because you have visibility over your cloud environment, you need to be able to protect those assets. So some of the most ill-protected things on the internet is cloud right now. It's people see it as either too complicated, requires specialized knowledge, or requires expensive solutions. The thing is there are inexpensive and also open source solutions to a lot of problems that a partner can highlight for you. It's um, I would say and for my challenges, it's always about scale. How do I do things over, 30 plus countries? How do I get many different peoples and teams and understandings to all understand why they need to be secure? But then with my lease partnership, they made it simple. They provided me a plethora of options in the marketplace that were meeting my budget, but then at the same time gave me a roadmap on how we could grow with that solution. So it's a crawl, walk, run approach. If the provider were to sell me a full solution initially, I don't know if it would have actually been approved. But the thing is because we're able to get the minimum viable product into the business, we're able to show that value. That value is now highlighted, and now it's becoming a part of our business. So, um, getting the solution as part of the business is the ultimate goal of the security vendor because that's how they function and survive long term.
Hmm.
Mhm. If you're just trying to sell me a dashboard that lights up for $250,000, then it's not going to be effective because even if I do buy it today, there's a good chance I won't renew it.
Right. Right. And that's wasted time on everyone's part. But again, it really depends on the short term versus the long term view, because short term, a salesperson may be, hey, I made the sale, I met my quota, profit. But that's also not someone that you're going to go back to. So when you get an inbound from them maybe 2 years later and they're at the next vendor, and they're like, "Hey, do you remember me? I sold you so and so." You're gonna be like, avoid that person like the plague because they sold you something that you didn't need or it wasn't the right fit.
Exactly, and, it's I'm always looking at it long term. I'll remember the security vendors' names, and that's the thing is when you talk to a customer, they know you as that person. So if you're selling me, cloud security, I'm gonna know you as the cloud security person, and that's not going away. So even if you change your jobs, your fields, I'm gonna always see you in that old light. So your reputation and your impact and your interactions is gonna be felt for the rest of your career. So if you want to make a short-term sale and profit, even at the customer's expense, just know you're hurting your own career in the end.
Yeah, huge advice. That's brilliant. So, what's exciting you about the future of, because there's a lot of people doom and gloom, but I think there's definitely some great things around the bend too.
Oh yeah, definitely. At least in the technology space, I'm really excited about robotics, brain-computer interfaces. From a security perspective, huge implications. If you have a little chip in your brain, you need to be able to protect that. Host intrusion prevention system, and host is in human. So a HIP system in the future might actually literally be in the human, and it's trending that way. Same with robotics. We're going to see, robotics become exponentially cheaper over time. With that is inherent physical and cyber risks with both. You, as a securities vendor or partner, need to understand that solutions that solve these emerging technologies are going to be very abnormal because a lot of this field is new. Um, Robotic automatons has been a concept for over 100 years, but they're still trying to get it to scale in a way that is economically viable. But then, brain computer interfaces. We've only had the technology for about 40 years, and then commercially, it's only been really real for the last like 3 years. There's a lot of players in this space that are going to rapidly innovate. It's going to change how we do business, how we function with society, and as a seller, there's going to be security and IT solutions to manage all of those things. And that's not going away. If anything, it's going to get exponentially more complicated. So choosing who you work for as a seller is going to be critical because if you want to work for the next big player in this industry, you have to have a open mind and also a fresh perspective. How we used to secure this business is not going to be how we do it in the future. So understand that if you question how you're approaching sales today, it might make you a stronger salesperson later on in your career. And the ultimate end goal is to retire. So if you want to retire, stay on top of the industry and then also continue learning and continue innovating.
Great answer and great advice because it goes back to the original, the answer to the original question is question everything, be curious, constantly learn. There is one thing you said though, and we don't have time to dive deep into it. As a matter of fact, it's almost painful for me not to go technical on this. Well, next. We'll do that offline. But I did want to double click into the where you said how we secure today is not how we're going to secure tomorrow. Because what I've noticed is that we are actually the things that we were talking about 30 years ago are still relevant. Some of the basic concepts, and you're talking about HIPs and host intrusion prevention. I mean, that's a concept that's been around for 25 plus years. Um, People will recognize it from their VPN if they don't know exactly what that, when it's like, you don't have updated definitions or whatever. So, and that's really relevant for the, brain, human computer interface, which is we're not going to even touch because we could go down such a rabbit hole on that one, not on this episode at least. But I did want to ask you, do you really believe that the, fundamental concepts of security are changing, or do they remain kind of constant?
I think they're changing in a way that I wouldn't have said the same thing 10 years ago. So everything from how we do reasoning is dramatically different than even 2 years ago. How we pull and process information is becoming exponentially cheaper over time. It's becoming to the point where we might not even need SIEMs in the future because um, reasoning agents or reasoning systems can directly look at data stores, bypassing entire security architecture. So Same thing with firewalls. It might be completely useless to even have a layer 3 firewall if you can do it at layer 7 on host at a much more granular level. Uh, there's at least older concepts that are, I think, being rebranded. But then the thing that's really going to be different is I think systems are going to get simpler over time for security practitioners because what you have to secure becomes more of a black box over time. Your your supply chain risk is going to go up dramatically, but then you're needing a WAF at every single publicly exposed endpoint. It's more of why doesn't the technology have that built in by default? So a lot of these classical ways of approaching security is just going to be because we're trying to fill in gaps with core technology with compensating controls. But then the future is the technology itself has that built into it. So the types of risks are going to be different. So there is signature, like you mentioned, but systems in the future are going to be using heuristics more. They're going to be using behavior and also learning. So being able to change, adapt, and then also adjust based on what's actually happening in the real world.
Yeah, so the concepts are still the same though. Like you're talking about the OSI layer, layer 3, layer 7, and for those that aren't technical, ask ChatGPT. But I mean, we're talking about applications versus essentially network. But also, what you're saying is the way we interact with those systems is going to be vastly different. I totally agree with you, and it's interesting because it comes back to what the whole point of this trusted advisor network we're talking about is it's trust. So the hack will not necessarily be okay, we're going to try to get one past the goalie because the sim doesn't recognize the signature or didn't realize, we're hiding in plain sight. It's going to be, we're going to hack the system that, that the or the advisory or the hypervisor or, what's watching over to give you those answers like, hey, any weird alerts today? And it's going to be, you know, no, Hal, I did not, or not Hal, no, Dave. I I did not, kill your crewmate or something, making a Stanley Kubrick reference. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting. The future is definitely very bright. We didn't talk about AI. We didn't talk about quantum, but these things are out there too. But I think the people listening are probably dealing with much more fundamental stuff, and that's a scary thing for me when I and practitioners when we hear, okay, all these things are going to happen in the future. It's true, but companies can't even secure the most basic stuff, without reusing passwords and exposing things that they shouldn't. We've seen even in very big companies like SQL database, open database is open to the internet and stuff like that. So then you think about robotics and where like hacks like Stuxnet were specific to a controller in a centrifuge, which was obviously the hack to end all hacks at that time. Amazing how they even did all of it. But that was one specialized piece of equipment. Now imagine hacking a robot that has the capability to do basically anything. It's like not just, hey, turn a motor. It's like you can go in and murder people and do all sorts of things. And then without attribution, which is how the internet works, right? Like, how are you going to know who actually pulled the trigger on that one? So crazy, strange. We hopefully we don't go to the dystopian. We go to the utopian vision.
Oh, for sure. It's we'll try to avoid uh, uh, the RoboCop and the
Terminator.
Terminator future. Yeah, and it makes spy network for us as humans and
Exactly.
propagate throughout the universe. So.
Yeah, not sure, yeah, that's the, who's the author, the sci-fi author that, Elon Musk named all of the, SpaceX, ships after. Anyway, that's an author that talks about how AI can really help humanity jumping around planets and stuff. We really hope that that's where we get it.
Oh, for sure, and securing it all is still gonna be relevant.
Big time. Big time. Yeah. So, Alexander, I want to go also to a little bit of the personal stuff. We're kind of running out of time, but we're having such good conversation. I didn't want to, stop where our path there. But you have had a really amazing career, and you're still kind of, you got a long career ahead of you. What got you into security? How'd you find this field, or how did it find you?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I started in this field for fun. So used to love video games growing up, trying to understand how they would work. My Some of my first interaction with security was trying to hack video games. So seeing what I could make the systems do, whether that's skipping to different checkpoints, modifying memory on hardware. Uh, it was fascinating to me as a kid. All the way back to the old Game Boy games, I would look at my Pokemon games, seeing how I could interface with the various hardware. Game Shark was one of the first ones I would work with back in the day.
I remember them.
Then fast forward, systems have all gone from client side to server side. Hardware has become from open source to proprietary. It's a lot harder to crack into this industry when it comes to hacking. So I felt very fortunate growing up that it was more of a Wild West. And at the same time, it gave me some really invaluable experience and exposure to how a hacker thinks. Because fast forward, now I work for the good guys. And in order to effectively defend, you need to think like all actors, good and bad. And, I think, my career, like you mentioned, I'm fascinated by security. So I'm happy to do this until I die. I don't plan on retiring. It's just something I actually enjoy doing. But then at the same time, I want to be able to help people in this industry too. So I'm always, trying to understand how I can make a further impact, build people up as a leader. Because to me, true leadership is showing up and then building people, not just, taking credit for things. It's one thing to, accomplish a hard goal for a business. It's another to make a whole team look good. And I find real joy in that.
That's awesome. Well, listen, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
Oh yeah, definitely. You can check me out on LinkedIn. Also on various social platforms like X. And so if you want to check out my content, please do. Happy to have individual discussions with anybody, and whether that's from the sales side all the way to the technical side. I'm an open book for everyone.
Careful. You're you're gonna get some calls, but yeah, listen, Alexander Wold, thank you so much. This has been such a kind of eye-opening experience and chat, because I think what you've brought here is not. We could have gone obviously geeked out for 60 minutes, which probably would have only a certain few would have listened. But you've given some real insights and a treasure here to anyone that's trying to sell to people like you. So really a great pleasure to have you on the show.
It's great to be on the show, and it's really enjoyed watching prior ones, and it's I think anyone that's listening, listen to this content. This will help your career, and this is coming from the customer perspective. They have some really good insights that will make you a better salesperson.
Thanks so much, and really thank you for listening to the other ones, and thanks to everyone else that's watching and or listening. If you learned something today, laughed or got kind of nervous about the future, please tell someone about the podcast. And thanks again, Alexander. And this has been another exciting episode of Channel Security Secrets. See you next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Channel Security Secrets. Thanks for tuning in. For show notes, guest info, and more episodes, visit us at channelsecuritysecrets.com. Channel Security Secrets is sponsored by Cyber Defense Group. When it comes to protecting your business, don't settle for reactive. Partner with experts who build resilience from the ground up.